Welcome to 108 Healing Senses podcast. This is our second episode, and I am so happy to introduce my second guest, Denicia. Please share your wisdom, your intuition, and what is it that you'd like to help people with today?
Yes. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. So it's so cool because I'm sitting here going, oh, this is the second episode. That's so awesome. And it's my personal year too in numerology. So I'm like,
Ah.
hey. Yeah. Well, I am actually a holistic wellbeing consultant and Doctor of Oriental Medicine. I love working with introverts and empaths. They're usually caregivers as well, to be able to like do what they do best, which is care, like for other people. The thing is that we want to do it sustainably.
Yeah.
And we want to do it without losing ourselves along the way. So, what I do is actually show them how it is that when you're trying to figure out your boundaries or trying to figure out how do I navigate stress and burnout? Like, how do I keep my mindset and like mindfulness practices or what are my self-care practices and whatnot? Is that we actually can use the signals that are coming from the whole body as a guide. So it's a way that you actually get to personalize it whenever you might hear like very, almost like generic types of tips and stuff that are out there. And it's like, oh, that's not working for me. But like, so, so I'm like, hey, let's use what's coming from your body and use that as guidance, to support you. And then that way you get to have like these rich and fulfilling relationships with other people, and especially with yourself. So, yeah, that's my jam. And we can definitely get into some more.
I love that. And you know that, I know it's been a part of my self-healing journey is learning to trust the information that's coming to me through my own body. And it's quite a normal thing for people to look outside of themselves, external validation for their own internal worthiness. And I suppose it's also, that's part of the kind of growth experience and your self-healing is I no longer need to look outside of myself to know myself.
Yeah.
And listening to the body. So what kind of insights from the body could you share with the audience as to how they can start to resonate like with the world, and help themselves?
Yeah. Well, I love that you actually shared and brought up about the self-trust, because like if we put it into the context, right, it's of many being introverted, many also have empathic qualities and tendencies and abilities, right? And so it's like how I see it when we're looking at relationships. And once again, it's relationship with the self is like one, and then relationship with others, right?
Yeah.
And so I tend to support and encourage leading with the self, right? And at the same time, though, like you're looking at the relationship with others to be able to provide some reflection, right, of what is going on with the self.
Yeah.
And so and I'll get into that, like more into that, but like I wanted to kind of lay that foundation out there because when you're there's some qualities of introverts where it's like something can happen and then you'll just start spiraling, like overthinking a lot of it, right?
Can happen a lot to anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's like, I can figure this out. And then you just kind of like, I think like the subtle difference is that the extroverts that I've come across, they might want to, they tend to outwardly try to figure it out versus the introverts will go really quiet and go internal and then can perhaps even stay in that space a lot longer, as it is that they're trying to like figure it out. Right. Yeah. And then, if you layer on the empath part, that's where the blurred lines can tend to happen. And so then when you're talking about trust, right, it's like how can it's like, can I trust the information that is given to me or that I'm seeing? And then like, if am I picking up on someone else's energy? Like, am I actually kind of tuning in more there rather than it actually be mine? And
Mm,
so like you see there's like a whole thing of discernment that's there. And then some even that I work with, they're intuitive as well. So like with the intuition, it's like, is this is this intuitive information for myself? Is this for someone else? And then like, and because
yeah.
it's all happening like it's all happening all the time and it's all happening simultaneously. And so it's like it can be quite confusing, right?
Mm,
Um and so that's where it is that sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, when you go into the body, we are actually activating that part of like of discernment,
mm,
right? And so then it's having the practice, really having like a regular practice of tuning into yourself and then just knowing what's your cadence, right?
mm,
Like what are your rhythms?
yeah.
So then when you are interacting with someone else's, it helps in that discerning of, oh, this is definitely mine, and then oh, that's definitely not. And I know that I'm talking people to people, right, mostly like right now, but I'm also talking just environmentally, like
Mm,
seasonally, right? And so there will be times where we might be in group and it's interesting because they're talking similar experiences, right? Now, granted, it's their personal path. They're talking, but there's a theme to
okay.
what they're talking about that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And then for me to be able to go in and be like, oh, you know what? uh, we're changing seasons and in Eastern medicine seasons, there's five. It's not the four, right? It's five. And so like to kind of be able to point that out to them. And then usually the empaths and the highly intuitive ones tend to pick up on the energies before they start to come into physical form. So like to be able to reposition it and reframe it for
Mm,
them,
yes.
then it lightens the load. It sounds weird, but it's like it lightens the load of like whatever they were experiencing. Like it becomes a place where it's like, oh, it's like a sense of relief. They don't have to be so hard on themselves anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because then it's like, oh, okay. So that's what's happening. I'm more aware of the environmental landscape and I'm actually tuned more into that, right? Like, and another example would be um can be like cravings, right?
Okay.
And over here, and I believe it's other places because I've talked to people in other countries as well, but like
Mm,
like this whole notion of like what's healthy and then like the foods, healthy foods and
mm,
superfoods and
mm,
all that stuff, right? That then what happens is people might have cravings and they'll admonish themselves. They'll eat everything else but that one thing, right? Because it's not deemed healthy, quote unquote. Or they would have gotten like been told like, oh, that has a bunch of oxalates and blah blah blah, right? And it's like so and but the thing is that and it's not to say that those things aren't happening. It's just that like the way that studies are done, the way that people would go and announce like
mm,
certain conclusions or their findings about things, it's often skewed
mm,
compared to what someone in their everyday life might eat. Right. And
yeah.
so what happens with that is the reason why I bring that up is because when we're talking about trust,
Yeah.
there are times that literally I'll be speaking with someone and they're talking about some craving and they would have been hard on themselves about it. And they're just processing out loud and the information and
Mm,
stuff. And yet I hear things that they're talking about, other stories. And I'm like, you are totally trying to get, say, like some very heavy minerals
mm,
based on a craving. And it's like, they're whatever they're craving, whatever, and it might be like very mineral dense. And but they're talking also about things that's also like very stressful. They might have some trouble sleeping. They feel really high strung, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll be able to point out what they're craving and if they're documenting it or something like that too, if they're writing it out. And I'm like, whoa, you are totally trying to sedate yourself. You're trying to sedate your system when it seems like it's really awry
your
and
nervous system
frazzled.
regulated, and you're trying to. It's like with chocolate. A lot of women are drawn to chocolate at certain times of the month because it does contain, at least good chocolate contains magnesium and a host of other minerals.
Chromium, calcium. I mean, it's so much that's in it when you get a pure, like you said, and that's the trick. Like, that's the thing is that, and I'll tell them, I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead and have the chocolate. Go for that 70% cacao and higher. And they look at me like, what? And I'm going, that will legitimately tell you like if it's sugar or if it's like the mineral thing that you're looking for. And if it is sugar, it's cool. We're aware that it's sugar. And then what comes with sugar? Quick energy. And you're telling me that you're tired, right? Or like you're kind of just running. So either way, so you see how we're talking about this. I'm not saying one is good and one is bad. What I'm asking is for you to explore what is coming from each of those. What's the benefit that's coming from it? Because you're in some way trying to nourish some aspect. And if it's like, even with the sweet, if we tie in, like the psychology part, the psycho-emotional part through the Eastern medicine lens and specifically through calm, which is what I have learned and I practice. It's even this element of nourishing the heart. And so then it's even asking, within the heart, where is there possibly like some connection that is missing? You're trying to add and nourish that. You're trying to fill that, right? Is there like a quick jolt? Like, because sugar can act quick and you're burning through it quick, right? So like, what is it that we might quickly be desiring to feel? Right? And so, so you can see how there's just so many different things just from simple chocolate.
It's amazing, isn't it? And not to feel any guilt or blame or shame for the cravings that you have, and to look deeper. What is the mineral constitution of the foods that you're craving? So much, and it does bring up an important point that our food system is completely backwards. The earth isn't nourished as it should be, and that nourishment also comes to us through the land, through the plants. So everyone's lacking right now, and everyone needs remineralizing at a very deep level, including the land and us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think about that at times, and I'm like, oh. I ask myself like a few things, or I start pondering a few things. And one of those is, okay, what can I do to kind of show whatever, like some love or whatever to the land? And even if that's like just simply sitting and being and, like in a park or something like that, just kind of like, I know some people, okay, so here's something else too. It's like people kind of be like, oh, the earth can handle it. Even those that are very in the spiritual community, they'll be like, Mother Nature can handle it. Just release all of your whatever into, and it's like, or like we consider that our food is grown in that earth. And I feel like we can do emotional harm to earth the same way that they can go and pull up forests physically, right? We can disturb ecosystems by our thoughts and by this releasing into the earth. And so I look at that as where it is that we can be actually responsible more responsible of our energy, and that it actually can be quite powerful to realize like we can transmute that energy. So whatever it is that we're feeling really uncomfortable about, and we're wanting to let go of it or release it, it's like, yeah, I can transmute this. I can transmute this and then still be able to at least like let it go with love. Let it go and may it be a blessing to someone else. So even if we take now let's take this to the body. So even when we take it to the body, we're eating, right? And then it goes through our digestive tract. That digestive system is a beautiful symphony of transmutation and transportation,
Ooh,
right?
I love that.
Like if you really, really sit with it, there are so many pieces and elements of it that starts just by you simply smelling, because your sense of smell will be the first one, right? Just by your sense of smelling something will activate the tract, right? Then just simply like looking and possibly touching, which is why you have cultures that would touch their food.
Yeah.
And they eat with their hands, right?
Yeah.
And imagine over time, it was like, that's disgraceful. You need to eat with a fork and a spoon. So you now here, there's that cultural nuance that separated us from the food, right? But really, when you look at it, and it's like at all of these stages, receptors are activated, hormones are activated, enzymes are activated, right? And they all play a role to taking something and like taking it, breaking it down, reshaping it. Like, and even then it's like, well, yeah, the carb stuff is and sugars are going to be digested first. Sweet. And then, but you're going to need this to be able to digest the proteins, right? But then you're going to need this to digest the fats, because that's going to take a really long time, right? So you see, it's like, it literally is just this beautiful symphony. And remember too, like I said, spiritually, energetically, it's what are we letting go into the earth, and may it be a nourishment. Our poop, think about it. Like it's supposed to be of things that we're good with now. We extracted what we needed from it. And then you're pooping out the other. And we're just like, it may be a nourishment to something else. And so it's actually like, right. But it's like cow manure. Or like the really cool fish tanks. I don't know if you've seen them, but like those really cool fish tanks where like you can put beta fish at the bottom, and then the plants are at the top. And it's because the poop from the fish actually provides the nutrients to the plants that's growing at the top.
I've seen that before. It's wonderful. And more people could and should know about it. And now they're learning about it.
But it's like, but you see what I mean when I say like, whatever we may actually like let go in the sense of digestively can in some ways provide some nourishment to something else and to someone else, right? And so like I feel like we do that energetically. So be very careful and understand that you digest whatever emotional thing it is, right? You digest that and you transmute that and realize like you're playing a role into what's also happening into the earth. And just may it be more nutrients to be able for the earth to be able to do its job versus, oh, it's just going to do it. It's like, it also needs care and nourishment and nurturing also.
I think if everyone were to consider the earth a spirit in herself, Gaia, and there are plenty of meditations I know over the years, I've done many, and they do include, you bring light into yourself, then you take that light down into Mother Earth and feed her as well, and you connect and root to her crystal heart, and then you can come back up again, and then there's this beautiful replenishment of source to you, you to Gaia, Gaia to you, you to source. So it's just this beautiful flow. And it doesn't matter if you are sad and then you go and ask a tree, or you go and hug a tree. And I would highly recommend, if you feel sad, if you feel depressed, go and hug trees often. And you'll end up finding, maybe there's a park nearby or nature, and you'll end up finding a particular tree that you'll always go to and sit. And it's so healing. And you can give back as much as in the times of need when you need them. And then when you're able to, you give back to Mother Earth, you give back to the nature elements, and you can do it with love. You can do it just channeling light. You can send love to Earth and to each other, most importantly, because we're all living on Earth. We're all Earth's children. So it does feel like a duty to live in more love, in more harmony and balance together. Everyone here, because we can't get away from each other. So that harmony is required.
Yes. Yeah, harmony is my jam. Like that's what I look for, I strive for. I encourage others to look for that, and to even, explore what harmony means to you, right? Like when you look at harmony, even if we were to, let's just take like a music group, each one has a different sound, different tone, different pitch.
Yeah.
But then they'll all of a sudden play. They're going to be from their own strength, their own gift, their own, what I call perfect magic glitter. And yet when they get together and they just, it's like literally they just come together and they resonate together, and it creates a whole nother sound. And it's like, it just sounds so beautiful. But the thing is, that sound wouldn't exist if each one of those pieces were not shining in their own light. One wasn't trying to be the other, right? they just needed to be them.
Hold each other in the space.
Yeah. And even then, it's like, when you think about harmony, there are rhythms, there are flows, there's the ebbs, there's like when it's the amplitudes. Like, so even in sound, right? It's like, it's this amplitude that's happening. And then the frequency being, so you got amplitudes and you got frequencies, but either one of them, like it's like, is it going to be expanded out? Is it going to be more tight? Is it going up and more down? Like all of that is happening, and it's the totality of it.
Yeah.
It's the totality that we want to be in. And that's why I'll go and I say, like, it's my tagline is like, I am whole, I am complete, I am perfect. Because what has been lost is that the root meaning of perfect is whole and complete. And so when we can sit with, oh, I am whole. There are many aspects of me. And each of those aspects, though, play a role into the whole and into the totality. And so when one might be speaking more than the other, where are we casting judgment that one part's better than the other part? Because then that means you're denying parts of yourself.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And then when you're denying those aspects of yourself and what it's the wisdom that's contained in that's a signal to you. Right. Like I was saying, it's relationships, right? Like it's the signals that are coming. It's relationships, and it's internal and it's external. And so like even with the internal and these aspects of you that we might possibly be denying, even if it is guilt, if it's guilt that you're experiencing, it's guilt you're experiencing. Let's explore why. Let's explore where it's coming from, right? Yeah. If it's shame, if it's resentment, like those are all things that are going to happen. So like, that's why I don't subscribe to this. We're going to overcome doubt. and all of that. We're not overcoming.
No.
Because the thing is that as a being, you're going to be experiencing different circumstances and whatnot.
Yeah.
All throughout like the life, right?
Yeah.
And it's what we would say, it's going to be nourishing the self, nourishing the terrain to be able to navigate what we come to experience. Because that is going to happen. The doubt is going to happen.
Yeah.
The fear is going to happen. The worry is going to happen. The joy is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. But it's when we might get like very honed in, like, like be like that's with blinders. Like, no, this is all, I'm just feeling like this. And there's just all this worry. And then they focus on that. And like, it just like kind of with the blinders, you even see it's like a direction, right? That they're going. So it's like, I'm directing myself to more worry. And because instead of just kind of like pausing a bit and being like, there's this worry, I wonder why, like what's coming from that. And you can be abstract and then you can go into the body and see what are some things that are showing up. Like if there is I want to say like if there's more of, let's just say you're going through an experience of edema, and it's this edema that is just swelling and it just feels like you're sluggish and just very difficult walking through. Imagine then that whatever the scenario is, you're feeling kind of stuck and mucked up. Like, I feel like I'm sluggishly going through this, whatever this is. And then even if there's some bloating, right? It's just slow. Like it's you're like acclimating to whatever it is very slowly. And the thing is that you can even ask yourself, do I really want to even be acclimating? Is that why it's so slow? Do I even really want to merge with, because it's digestive, right? So do I even want that in my system?
Yeah, it is a real mind-body connection. And there have been many cases over the years of people getting unwell and then moving through it and changing their body through their thoughts and their actions as well. But the mind is so powerful. And it is interesting, isn't it, how if you've got body issues, then it does affect the mind. And your second brain is in your gut as well. So there's all these incredible synchronicities within our bodies and our just ways of being that are super connected, and not to ignore one whilst focusing on something else, because everything is connected, everything is holistic. We are a completeness, and you can't fix one thing without looking at the other things in your life, because it will just keep repeating. Maybe not the edema, but it could be something else. There'll be other health challenges because they are linked to an emotional, internal emotional, or the external toxicity of your environment, of your relationships, of work, whatever it might be. But it is important to recognize where in your life is toxic, where in your life can you start to be really honest with yourself and make changes and be like, actually, you know what? I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to stop doing X, Y, Z that are toxic to me, and really start loving myself and take healthy actions from that.
Yeah. And I'll even add a layer onto that, and this is simply out of observation, right? Of, I don't even know when it started here, but like the toxicity or notion of toxicity, in the sense of we kind of had the toxic term in the physical health side, but then it got it's now used, like, as far as relationships go, right? Or toxic work environments and things like that. And so, like, it's kind of interesting how that term has been, how its use and has transformed over time. So it's really fascinating to me. And I want to add on, though, to what you were saying, in that if we go back to the example of the chocolate, right? It's when we see that there might be a behavior that we're expressing, and it on one hand, it looks like it's not congruent with our desire. So I'll take your example of they might want to feel healthier, and whatever that might be, because my definition of health is not necessarily what most would use. But like, so then you're saying, like, oh yeah, change the way I eat, or like, what movement do I need to incorporate, kind of thing. And so, and then people have trouble sticking with it. And so then that's where I'll ask, like, I'd much rather you talk to me about it, just like be open and talk to me about it, because the thing is that we can actually change strategies, right? And we can move. And then that's when I can start to hear what else is going on with the body to figure out a strategy that works best for you. So, like, I'd much rather you just tell me about it up front, right? Like, because I'm going to see whether or not it's working out anyway. So, like, and it's not in a way that is where people feel like I'm persecuting or judging, because I'm really not. I really try to contain a very neutral position. But I say that because sometimes when you're doing things that you, quote unquote, think that you aren't supposed to be doing, it's actually might be an opportunity for you to explore where you think that it's toxic, but it's actually nourishing something.
Ooh. Do you have an example?
Yeah. So, for instance, and this is where people can get like, this is where it's that gives that mask or that image of, like, no, I thought this was healthy for me to do this, kind of thing. But then someone would be like, oh, that's actually quite toxic to you. But so, for instance, heavy and high cardio workouts, right? Like CrossFit, things like that, right? Those very intense boot camp style, right? Now, here's the thing. Someone could be sitting there in front of me and they're talking, they're describing all of these things that's going on in their life, right? And then at the same time, there's some digestive concerns. There's even like sleep issues, right? Definitely some issues with menstrual cycle. And then I find out that they're doing CrossFit or boot camp or something like that. And they're doing that, like, they describe it as, I gotta do this. I have to do it every day. If I don't, it's as if their world falls apart. And so then it's like, interesting, right? And so then, and I'm like, So then come to find out, there's actually some parts of their, within themselves, that there are some things that they actually might want to do, and some desire that they might have, but they actually aren't moving on it, or they feel like they can't, or it's that something externally is stopping them.
Okay.
Or it can even be like they themselves feel stuck. What is happening is that they're using the CrossFit or the high intensity workouts to move the energy that otherwise is stuck. So you can see where a behavior might look like it's healthy. This is why I don't like labeling them healthy or unhealthy, good or bad, because what happens is it skews the way that you look at it. Because actually, them doing that was nourishing some aspect of themselves
Mm.
while simultaneously actually running through resources.
Mm.
And then that's where, too, now the physical resources of going through more minerals than usual, or like I said, the menstrual cycle's thrown off. Those minerals are used when it comes to cramps, like especially those that describe like magnesium, like high doses of magnesium helps them in that. Well, because you're burning through magnesium. But why are you burning through magnesium?
Mm.
You know what I mean? And so like, but when you can get and see like, oh, there's some desires here that's a real secret. And like they just either may not say it, they may not admit it, or they might, like I said, feel stuck, and because they don't see how they can get there. And so then that's how it ends up becoming this whole conversation now that we're having of, oh, okay, so this is actually what you would really want to be doing.
Getting real honest. What
Yeah.
you
And
actually want to be doing? Yeah.
yeah. And so it's
Mm.
like, well, let's just see how can we get there, you know? And I am like the queen of possibilities and potential. I mean, I see I'll be, oh, you tell me something. I'm like, oh, sounds like might be an excuse, but it's okay. We'll take that, and then we're gonna try this.
We'll
And
follow
the
the
thing
thread.
is yeah, like it's just like,
Yeah.
let me just, and that's how also that I'll find out, like, some people might be at surface level. They'll say like, oh, they can't do XYZ because of something, right? And then when I can put together, because I can put together like strategies easily. I just see potential in ways that we can make it happen, right? And so if I offer that to them,
Mm.
right? And then, oh, well, I can't do that part too. I'm like, oh, so then here, and then I'll get another one, taking into consideration what they just said, right? So after you do that for so many rounds,
Mm.
you get to that point then where you ask them, that's when it becomes a point of truly exploring for themselves
Mm.
just where they are in the belief that they could experience what they're desiring. But it's also quite possible a fear of what they could be losing,
Mm.
because it'll shake some stuff up. And so I find that they actually are scared of what they could be losing.
The fear of change keeps people stuck.
Yeah.
They're frozen. They're unable to go to revert back to an older part of themselves, or they're unable to evolve to a newer part of themselves because they've got whatever the belief system within them which says XYZ. And I suppose this is a really good time for anyone listening is ask yourself, if you're feeling stuck right now, what would make you feel unstuck? Like what if you have a goal in mind and you were to just remove the fears, almost imagine it was someone else. Imagine stepping outside of yourself and looking at you from above, and be like, okay, well, what could I do in order to reach my dreams, or in order to become the best version of myself? You know, those are important questions to ask yourself, and that's where that being really honest with yourself and listening to the signs that your body is telling you. If you start, getting sweaty and stressed when you're around certain people, that's a good indicator that they're not great for you right now. Maybe not forever, but at least for right now, your nervous system is saying, I can't do this, it's too much. And then you have to dig in and be honest. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
That self-responsibility coming in hard. So yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say like, so like another reason why I like to look at, okay, what's showing up in the body and what forms, is because sometimes like, yeah, and I could be very up there, right? So that means then I can pretty much almost kind of reason myself into anything or out of anything. So yeah, and that's what many people do, right? And it's also that like the ego is gonna, it's once again one element to a whole that serves a purpose. And so the ego's purpose is going to also be safety. And so then where we can logicize and rationalize, it's doing its part to try to give us some impression of safety, which means then that we could blur or actually not bring in the parts that actually are getting to us or accepting that aspect of us, right? And so that's where, like, if I were to really take a look at like how someone's expression within their body is showing up, like if it's a headache, if it's headaches that they're experiencing, it's a difference between the headaches that's here versus at the top of the head or in the back of the head, right? Or if it's pain, even pain like in the leg, pain in the front of the leg versus on the outside of the leg versus on the inside of the leg gives you little nuances because there's those related organ systems. And even then, those organ systems have their role, like I said, to the whole.
Yeah.
So if there are things popping up, like even in urinary patterns, menstrual patterns, like digestive patterns, sleep patterns. And what I mean is, I'm talking like nitty gritty, get to know yourself. I call it date yourself.
Yes.
It's like, and it's an acronym as well, but it's like, no, I really want you to date yourself. I'm gonna need you to get to know this part of you. And I would like for you to go and really observe, what's happening as even if you're describing to me digestive issues. There's many things that can come from digestion where it's like, is it the openness or lack of openness to others? Is it an over caring or an overdoing for others while also not receiving that for yourself? Is it an issue of I'm having difficulty discerning between myself and others? Or is it a difficulty in discerning what actually do I need versus what I don't need? Is it an issue of this is what I can keep and then this is what actually it can go, right? You see, each one of those are very subtle things, but they actually show up in different parts of the digestive system and in the way that we digest. So then when you're dating yourself, you're taking note, right? Like, are you actually getting saliva when you're eating? How are you chewing? Like, are you chewing very quickly? Do you even know? Are you even aware? Are there like, is there like, until all the way going down to the other end where it's like, is there undigested food there? Am I actually having a bowel movement every day? What color is it? Is it hard to get out? Like, is there some pain before, during, or after? So it's like all of those little things where it's like, you really want to date yourself. And then what happens is at each of those points, there's, like I was saying before, little phases. They're in phases of transportation and transmutation. And then it can let you know where the kinks are.
Yeah.
So then that way, when you are in these moments of really kind of feeling like you're talking yourself into circles trying to figure it out, that's where you can see what are the patterns that are showing up in the way that your body is actually expressing itself. And then that can actually give you a little bit more paint for your brush strokes to see, oh, it's more of like this element to it. Because like I said, the ego's going to try to protect you. So it may not allow you to see it, or you may not even want to see it.
So
right?
I actually wanted to ask, how do you discern the energy of what's yours and what is someone else's?
Ooh. So this one.
Juicy question.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
It's a practice, right? It's a practice. It is indeed a practice because I am learning all the time. And as I want to say, as my own intuitive abilities evolve, I might get to a point where I didn't even realize like I could do that. Like it's or that was happening. And so like here's an example. There's one question that I tend to ask a lot when all of a sudden I feel something. And it doesn't seem like it's something that I would regularly feel. And I'd be like, just quiet real quick. And I'll be like, okay, breathe like a few times, try to make it quick because you never know what you're doing, right? And where you're at.
Yeah.
And but I'll say that with practice, I feel like and Tina Zion, I think, is the one who said this too. She's like, it might seem like it takes a long time when you start doing this, like in the beginning, but she's like, I can quickly reset myself, quickly run the toroidal field. And so once again, it comes into belief. So if you think that you can do it in like 30 seconds, you can do it in 30 seconds. If you think you can do it in 10 minutes, you can do it in 10 minutes. So it's all a matter of like, right. So I'll just like take like 3 breaths minimum to just kind of center real quick and pause. And I ask, is it mine?
Nice.
And so it's like and so with that, it's like kind of feeling yes or no. And sometimes I'm audient. So sometimes I'm hearing it, but then also I'm sentient. And it's like I knew some elements of sentience, but then it grew and to the point of like, and I wasn't paying attention that I was possibly the pendulum. And so even then it's like seeing, okay, I'm like leaning and going forward where it might be like a yes, or it's like I'm kind of going backwards where it's like a no. And I didn't realize that, right? Like, but I had learned over time that's what was happening. So that is like, so as you're doing that, you're kind of cataloging what does come easy for you, what might seem like it's just out there, and it seems like it's your imagination, but it's really not, you know? And one thing that I did learn is that whatever it might be, if it is intuitive in that way, it's neutral in emotion. So, because sometimes I think that's the thing is that people will get very emotional and like the intuitive information that's coming through sometimes is picking up on someone's emotion. The thing is though, is that it's seeing that you're receiving that information and it's paradoxically neutral, right? It becomes out of neutral when we put meaning to it. Right. And so when I ask that, like, is it mine? And you just have to sit there. So it's like, don't go and ask a whole bunch of questions like boom, 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 boom. It's like, because you have to give some space to receive the information, right? And then if it's not as clear, then I'll be like, is this someone else's? And then kind of waiting and seeing what's going on there. And then sometimes, depending on where I'm at, what I'm doing, it's like, am I supposed to know this information? And so like, why do I need to know it? So sometimes I start asking like, what do you really want me to know about this? And so like, and here's an example. We were at my family, we were out somewhere. We went out to this event and in the place, it was a really cool place. Like, and it's like this Latin tropical theme and everything, right? And it was like this big, huge party thing. And we were there and I'm like totally enjoying all of it. I'm observant. So I am a bit quiet sometimes. And it's because I'm observing outside of me. And it was a new spot, like Mind you, though, I love going and trying out different things. It's just that I am quiet in the beginning because I am observing, right? And so I'm like sitting there and all this stuff. And I'm like, woohoo, the music's going on, the dancers are all out and everything. And then like, boom, all of a sudden I started realizing I'm doing this. And then my head was just like, whoosh. And I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, no, I don't want to have a headache right now. Like, and then I'm like, what is this happening? I don't get migraines. Like, but I'm doing this and realizing the lights are flashing. Cause like I said, it was these dancers, just all this stuff going on. And then I was just kind of like trying to center as best as I could, provided that there was a lot of outside stimulation. And, so I'm like just kind of sitting there and I tried my best to try to ground. It was hard. It was really hard because that pain was intense. And then, but I did get the feeling that I wasn't mine, but I was confused. I didn't know what was happening, what was going on. So I was just kind of sitting there and I just kind of started doing this just to try to get through. And I didn't want to ask them to leave or anything. And then my sister like turns and talks to this lady behind her. And then my sister she turns back around. She's telling me, my mom, and she's like, yeah, this lady asked me if we could watch out for her because she's here by herself, but she's epileptic. And the flashing lights might have been might activate it. And soon as I heard that, it went away.
Wow.
So that was a moment where I was like, okay, so this whole picking up on things just went to a whole nother level. Like I was not like prepared. I mean, I was prepared in a sense of like trying to use all the tools to neutralize myself. But that's the thing. That's the next thing for me is like, I sometimes cannot identify where it's coming from. I just know that I feel it.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so that was an example of, I had some tools and things like that before for discerning mine and not, but I didn't, it was just at that time there really was like, that was the first time that's ever happened where it was like that. And for someone else, like very much so like out in the public, it can happen when I'm in a clinic setting or if I'm on here doing my virtual stuff and I just pick up and stream like it, because to me, then it like logically makes sense. I'm tuning in right now. Like I'm intentional about receiving information. But it's those times when you're not intending to, and it just happens. And you're like,
I have a free PDF on my website, and it's about spiritual and energetic protection, cleansing and clearing. And I find it a very important point. There are moments when you want to be open and receptive and be able to read and exchange energy, and then there will be other times that you want to make sure that no, you're entirely sovereign. You can still receive information, but it's just it's just dialed right down, so you can still pick things up, but you're not experiencing as if it's your own migraine or your own dysregulation in your body. So I'll send you the link, and
I'd be keen to check that out. Yeah,
it's important, and then lots of people are sensitive as well, and they might not know about energy or how to really manage their own energy as well. Like if you've got high emotions, when you learn how to ground and process and use that different elements, even like water and having baths to help let the flow of the energy move through you and out of you. And these are simple ways to transmute it without passing on that trauma, that high intensity sorrow, sadness, anger onto others. So you're able to
others and earth.
And earth, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it is that self-responsibility and the learning the old ways of how to manage our energy as well, our own energy fields. And if everyone does that, then again, another thing, the earth she'll just keep raising in vibration, and you know, it's a good thing for everyone living here.
I just thought about something as I was listening to you too. It's like when you realize your own power and being able to transmute it and shift it, it's like that is where you also move out of a very passive and victim like existence.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the thing, is that those that are, especially if they haven't learned any of the tips and tools on how to navigate their abilities, like that's where, yeah, they can feel almost like it's like it's like this flow that's actually like you're being pulled. It's not an intentional, I'm directing somewhat the flow. Like it's like this, I just kind of go wherever it takes me. And it's like, and to me, that's a sign that it's not really rooted. And then they could feel, you know, like, yeah, it's whatever happens. And then they just, you can sense it. Like it just, they feel almost like
a ship without a sail.
Yeah. And
moving,
just,
but where to?
Yeah. And just feeling like they really are the victim of whatever might happen. And they're the ones that say, this is happening to me, and a lot. And like you can hear it in their languaging. And so it's like, that's to me another invitation to neutralize. And it's like, this happened. Like, I know that there's people out there that'll be like, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And I'm like, nope, actually, it just happened. Soon as you start saying to, from, for, whatever, you now placed a judgment. And so that's where it is that we can just say, like, you can neutralize the experience and just see, how am I responding to this?
Yeah. And also, I like to see it as, doesn't matter what happens in your life, and everyone will have had different paths, and people's traumas are all valid. There's no trauma trumps here. No one person's trauma isn't better than another person's trauma. And I see them as experiences on our soul journey. There are lessons that we needed to overcome, like being a victim consciousness. And, you know, these things happen lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And I'm sad to say, well, I'm not sad to say, it's an opportunity that if you're feeling like a victim right now, it's your choice whether you stay in that vibration or not. If you continue to feel and act like a victim, it will only ever repeat until you learn the lesson of self-empowerment, self-respect, and having honor for yourself. And that means choosing things that are good for you. That dating yourself is really get to know yourself, because you are worthy and deserving of love. Everyone is. Doesn't matter what has happened in the past. It's an experience. It has happened. How you are right now and where you want to go, that's what counts. As long as you take the lessons and the wisdom and the knowledge and the higher perspective of, oh, okay, I can see why that experience may have happened, and what did I learn from it? And another thing is, if I was to step into the other person's shoes, I wonder why they chose to do that and what lessons they experienced too, because it's both ways. It's a co-creation. When that starts to happen, then you start to, over time, your posture will change. You will hold your head high, and you will do what is in the highest for you. Yeah. It's a very important lesson, this victim conscious, like victim to victor. You can integrate the lessons and rise above it. And don't look back. If the past is poisonous to your very being, then stop repeating it. Stop talking, repeating it, and stop, you can process it, but you have to process it. You have to change the energy, elevate it, pour love into it. There's so many rich tools. and in so many different ways. But ultimately, it is love. Always come back to love. It's the simplest and freest option, but you have to find it yourself and practice it, and then work with souls like Denicia and also myself. Like, invest in yourself. If you're feeling like you've kind of hit a glass ceiling, then there will be souls assigned to you on your soul journey and your soul path that will be able to assist you. That I had the same thing for my self-healing journey. I've met some fantastic and incredible souls along the journey, my journey, that got me to here, and I know there will be more. So yeah, invest in yourself. Invest yourself in love, first and foremost.
Sounds so awesome.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share for today?
I mean, just want to reiterate that every single one of us is perfect, meaning that every single one of us is whole. We just have to see that we can welcome all of those aspects of ourselves. And even when we are desiring something different, you can always go to what's showing up in your body to guide you. And just know you got support out there, just like you said, right? You got support out there in different shapes and forms, and you got this. But just really realizing like you're a whole person, so you can accept all of those pieces of you, then we can, I mean, you could just really work some magic there. Because we need you. We need what your unique, perfect magic glitter is in the collective. It was assigned to you for a reason. And so if there's ways that we can support you to be able to do that, like to be that while navigating what's happening in life, like we're here. We got you.
Love it. Thank you so much, Denise. I really, really love this podcast with you today. And I feel like there will be lots of gems for everyone watching. How can everyone reach you?
Oh, so I would love for you to come out and hang out at the perfect playground. Is what I call it. So it's theperfectplayground.com. And you got some options there from joining the free email community to other services and offers as well. Just kind of see what tickles your fancy. And just come and hang out and be pretty keen. I want to meet you and then see what's going on for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so, so much. And I look forward to chatting again in the future again soon, I'm sure of it.